rather. You ready to chat some shit?
Yeah, man, let's get banged. Uh, it's so funny. I'm gonna just say it. I'm a little stoned right now. I feel like it's better if I say it versus you guys just assuming that I'm stoned and that I'm too cowardly to admit it. But like before we get into the football, Jeff, you know what I want to talk
Yeah.
about with you?
Yes. No, I
Snack
don't.
food. I want to discuss snack food with you.
Fruit of form. Okay, I'm in. Very in.
Well, listen, our audience doesn't live in the UK necessarily like you
Do
do.
not.
I would love for you to just chat up some of your fave like local delicacies, your fave local snacks that like we've experienced together. But like, let's just hear some of like what do you get to have in Jolly Old London?
I feel like actual like grocery store snacks not that great here. Like they have like chips, but they have them in the wrong flavors that are either like too weird or too boring usually. Although every now and then, like there's a nice sweet spot of like I found like my spirit store, which is Marks and Spencer's here, which is like the
Right.
most basic bitch thing to say. But like I heard a comedian the other day do like a bit on how if like you're officially middle aged when you start buying clothes in Marks and Spencer. But I didn't know that going in because like none of these like foreign brands meant anything to me. And so like I was just walking through it, I'm like, that's a very comfortable looking pair of khaki shorts right there, like so. But like Marks and Spencer is like exactly my level where the clothes are a little bit cheap and the food is a little bit bougie, and like that's kind of just who I am as a
So is it
human.
is it like small Target?
No, it's huge. Like they're like if you like depends on the store because there's smaller ones here and there, but like a typical Marks and Spencer or like a prototypical one would be like 4 floors. Like women's clothes would be a whole floor. Kids and men, we would split a floor because that's bullshit, but it happens in every store. And then there's like a huge food hall in the bottom, and then sometimes there's like restaurants and stuff. Like it's nuts. I fucking love like for gifts too, because like Marks and Spencer's so British that like going in there and they have like beautiful little tins of tea and like tea cakes, like the little like marshmallowy, they're like miniature ho-hos or something.
Now we're getting
Those
some
things,
snacks. Okay.
those are pretty good. Like Marks and Spencer does have like pretty good snack food, I would say. But
But
like
like, can you give us like a spread here? Like, paint a picture. Use your words, writer.
the other one that I do like is like in pubs. There's always like in like it's like in like a typical bad pub where you wouldn't want to order food that was cooked. There's like bags of chips and things hanging on the back, and those are pretty damn good. Like a lot of them are either like bougie chips where with like weird flavors like beef Wellington and stuff, which are like fun
What's with the? Yeah, I don't get the meat chip like
meat
obsession
flavored
there,
chip.
or like just hearing like beef barbecue beef. It's like I don't get it.
It
I'm not.
works for me though. I also think it doesn't make sense. Like the idea of how they flavor that chip to be Wellington flavored is fucked. But I'm in. I
Does that
like
mean
it.
it
I
has
like
like
a.
mushroom flavor?
I mean, it should, right? A Wellington's like beef, mushroom, pate, phyllo dough, all that.
I wish I could have a Wellington where it's just the beef and just the croissant around it. Like that's
Oh,
like just that.
yeah, because I feel like the part that would ruin it for you is like that layer of gravy-ish mushrooms. Dude,
Yeah.
you would have liked. I made beef Wellington for the second Christmas in a row this year. But
Did
this year
you?
I did a slightly different recipe. Last year my dad and I we kind of fucked it up. It was good, but like it wasn't as pretty as it could have been because we bought all this like really expensive pate to put in it, and then we were like, "Oh, like it says we only need 3 tablespoons, but it looks like we have about 10 tablespoons here." My dad's like, well, we don't want to waste it. And so we put so much in that then when it got hot, it like went and like melted down and like squished its way out of the sides of the Wellington. It was just like too rich to like literally the dough couldn't hold it. But this year I did a different recipe. It's like a newfangled version where the wrapping around the inside is like spinach and prosciutto, and that was pretty good. You do you eat spinach?
I drink it every day.
Yeah, but you don't. You probably don't eat taste of it, do you?
Well, it's like it's fine when it's mixed in with other shit. When it's just sort of like I remember like my parents would just like microwave the like green giant brick of spinach. Like that was
Yeah.
some like raggedy
Oh.
ass. Yeah, it's like some barbershop floor hair in your mouth. It's just not a pleasant texture.
Just
Um,
watching Popeye cartoons and not getting ready for it.
Although, you know what? I've started to wonder, like, what if weed is my spinach when you like in the Popeye verse?
Oh,
Like, what if because I'm such a better footballer when I'm 10 to 70% really high, and I know that that doesn't help me when I podcast, but when I play football, I feel like it takes away
wow.
the overthinking.
I could see that. I could see that. Hmm. I mean, we'll see if you're a better podcaster today, because
Oh no, I'm a
you know.
worse podcaster, but a better footballer.
um,
Oh,
I
let's get
like
back to
wine.
snacks though. Yeah.
I like wine gums. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
wine. You cut me off at the perfect time. I like wine. No, I like wine gums. I don't know. They're struggling, I think, a little bit snack wise. I think also,
Maltesers are pretty good. A fan of
yeah, I
those
like Maltesers.
Maltesers.
I like Maltesers just fine. It's a
I like
British Whopper.
my chocolate frogs on my way to Hogwarts, ready to start the new school year.
True, they do have that. Did you like those like weird caramel wafer bars from our Airbnb in Scotland? What are they called?
Kinda, yeah. I don't remember what they
Tuchel-
were called.
They were called like Tukas. They're-
I
it was a name that's similar to Tukas.
don't think that that's what it was called.
It was.
That would have stood out in my memory for sure. Like what's like the
Tunnel.
one what's I didn't you say that you guys have some special ability to like order American crap because of
Yeah, yeah. We can go on
diplomacy?
to these we can go on to these bases, like military bases. And then I actually just recently found out, although I haven't tested this yet, but apparently all the stuff that I had been driving like an hour and a half outside of London to get at the military bases, apparently I can just order that and they'll send it directly to the embassy and Rachel can bring it home for me to snack on. So
But
that
but but then Rachel needs to know about every cheese that you buy, right? So in a way, you're not gonna take full advantage of that.
Dude, I have so like this month I did a mostly dry Jan, but I did have like a couple of nights that were already planned to be wet. So I was like, we'll just let those be wet. So they're like 2 nights of non-dryness, but other than that, I've been doing dry Jan. And like I find that like every
Non-dryness.
2 nights I drank is a normal way to say that. But um the rest of I find like I don't know, I like in the evening I will have like a beer or two and then I don't snack, but then if I don't get to have like my special treat beer, then I'm like, where? And then like I got to the point where I'm like, oh man, I really can't eat any more of this Christmas candy because like otherwise it's going to be obvious that I was the one eating it. Because as I was doing dry Jan, Rachel was doing no sugar January,
Which
and
doesn't have nearly as cool of a name.
it doesn't. And it's honestly, it's so much more miserable. Like I don't know. It would suck so much to have like a woman's metabolism. Like she has to like be so healthy all the time. If I were a woman, I would have to wash my body with a stick. I would be so fat. Like it's like insane. Just the difference. Like I'm playing this game on the easiest mode. I'm in story mode right now.
I don't know what it was when you started saying that you would have to wash yourself with a stick. My mind went to like just a dramatic film being made about you, like a Brendan
The
Fraser.
whale.
Yeah.
Oh man, I saw Brendan Fraser. Have you seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet?
I did not. Is he in that?
He's in that. He's like honestly one of the only bright spots. He plays De Niro's lawyer in it. And he's so good and so manipulative and slimy in it. And he has like kind of a small role. Like it's too small to even get like a best supporting actor nod for.
Is this character
But
named The Bale?
no. But he was very good. Honestly, overall, I was pretty let down by the movie. Like it's like maybe my favorite director, and maybe doing a book that was written by maybe my favorite author, and it just is kind of like plotting and dull. And like I can't believe everybody else is like so hot to trot about it.
Is it a 4-hour movie?
Close. It's like three and a half.
All right, so I have to say, like all these directors that have almost been like given enough power through the being in big names over the years, where they kind of really get to determine what the final cut is. Nobody's gonna tell Martin Scorsese what he's doing.
Right.
It just becomes sort of like them just humoring themselves a little bit too much with like, well, you can't tell like an interesting beginning, middle, and an end in under fucking 2.5 hours. Like, are you
Yeah.
maybe not great at your job? All right, so if I have to write a 15-second ad, and I'm like,
Right.
no, my ad is dope though. It's 69 seconds because it's a very significant number to me, and it needs to be 69
Yeah.
seconds, or it doesn't work. You don't get me. You don't understand my art, and like it's a little bit crazy.
Even just imagine if this podcast was 3.5 hours long. Like that would just be crazy town.
Once we hit an hour, it's like when you are sleeping with your partner and you go long enough where like you've gone like 2 or 3 songs in a row on your Amazon Alexa, and you're like, you know what? At this point, this is all bonus time.
Mm.
I'm already proud of myself. So 2 more songs, that's just gravy, baby.
It's weird though. I remember like Wolf of Wall Street, I feel like was like his first one where he really let you like he would like let it like it was like hours and hours long. But when I watch that, every scene is like great. And then the one that almost everyone disagrees with me on, so I'm probably just wrong, is The Irishman, which is also super, super long.
It was
And
slow though. That felt like a slow movie.
it was slow, but I like loved it. And I think like if you can make it to the end in one go, it's a great movie. But weirdly, it doesn't work. If you try to like watch it over a couple nights, it doesn't work at all. But this one I just couldn't. And I did watch it like in a row, and then I watched it again with Rachel. I can't remember if I actually fessed up to her that I'd already seen it. But
Wow, this is really exciting. The second time in 1 week. 8 hours
no,
of your week.
I know. And then I was like, oh God. Because like when I watched it initially, I was like, well, it's all good because I love Scorsese. I'm gonna want to see it more than one time anyway. So I'll watch it again with her, no problem. But then after I watched it, I was like, oh God, I have to do that again now.
That could be like a new podcast concept for you, where you watch it every day and you like just do like a occasional like podcast journal episodes where you logging like how insane you've gone, having to watch it every day for 4 months, 5 months.
The weirdest thing about it to me is like, because actually the book is similar. Like, it's not my favorite book by this author, but it's like, there's no point where there's any sort of like misdirection. It makes you appreciate some of like the cheaper, like sleight of hand things that they do in like Netflix documentaries where they're like, they make you really think this guy did it. And then you're like, oh no, I didn't do it. But they were really like misdirect you. Whereas like this one is like the whole time you're like, oh, seems like they're doing some fucked up shit. And then you watch them do some fucked up shit for 3 hours and you're like, oh, and then they get caught. Okay. You're like, what the fuck?
It's the most exciting math equation is 1 + 1 = 2. You're just like,
Yeah.
yeah, I get that. All right, Jeff, because I'm too high to follow any singular train of thought. Shall we get into our football news for the day?
Yes.
So, breaking news. It's very rare we have anything relevant.
That was
Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp, is stepping down at the end of the season. Jeff, where were you when you heard this news? We remember it forever.
I was getting texted by Schuyler Hunt. This is actually funny. I should have like told you this more in the moment, but I saw that you had sent me a text and I saw that it was like to a soccer thing. And I was like in the middle of like a work thing. And I was like, all right, I'm going to look at that in a second. And then when I first got online, the first, like as soon as I opened my phone, it went to, I forget whether it was Reddit or Instagram, but it was something I wanted to send. It was Instagram actually. Oh no, it was a screenshot of my own comment on a thing on Instagram. And I wanted to send it to you. And it's very easy once you take the screenshot to just immediately send it. But then I was like, no, I don't want to be the dick thing where I haven't looked at his text, but I'm texting him my thing that I want him to look at. So then I went over to yours. Like, dude, it's basically the same thing as when I watched a movie without my wife and then watched it again with her, where I went over and looked at it, I was like, oh, cool link. And then I sent you the same thing. And all of it was in regards to Mr. Jurgen Klopp stepping down for fatigue reasons, I've read.
So, friend of the pod who has not been a guest yet, but definitely should be. And I actually wanted him to be a guest today, but it was kind of a last minute request and he's got to work. Good friend Michael Driscoll, Liverpool fan, was talking to him about all of this. He's pretty devastated by this news because if you can think about it, like Jurgen Klopp, like what Liverpool manager in our lifetimes has been better than Jurgen Klopp for Liverpool?
Yeah. I think that he is very well within his rights to feel devastated because when you think about it, I mean, honestly, since like the 80s almost, they had sort of just become like Tottenham with better history,
Manchester United.
They had become like this team that floated around fifth place. But no, even that's like kind of not true though, because Manchester United, had a great 90s, had a great aughts even, you know what I mean? Like there were a lot of titles in there, a lot of big things happened, but Liverpool kind of didn't, like with the exception of that one Champions League that sort of came out of nowhere. Like they hadn't won the Premier League had they ever won the Premier League before?
No, they only won it during the COVID season.
Right.
Which is kind of like 4/5 of a Premier League, right? Like with no fans.
Yeah, it's actually kind of surprising for them because I know that like that's like the biggest sort of concrete difference with that COVID season was you're playing without fans, so like suddenly playing at Anfield isn't as hard as it is when there's like 40,000 people jammed up the ref's ass.
Jammed up the ref's ass. I mean,
I don't know why they do the seating that way.
It's tough being a fan these days, for sure. You really gotta.
Yeah, £100 for this seat. Jeez.
Like, all right, so I've heard other podcasts do this. Where do you think Jurgen Klopp is in like the pantheon of managers?
I mean, it's a good question because when he's saying fatigue, he also said, I won't go to another club in England, which is an interesting qualifier. So, I mean, I don't know if he's done. I kind of thought we were going to see him for another 10, 20 years, but...
He might take a year off and go to Germany. He might take a year off and focus on his health. Like, so Michael, the friend I was mentioning, is alluding to the fact that he might be like really sick, and this might be like doctor order mandated because they're having a great season, building on sort of what was a rebuilding year last year, and like it looks like they're already done rebuilding, and now it's time to reinforce. That's a weird time to walk away, especially when, in theory, Manchester City, we don't know what they're going to look like in the future. If these 115 charges come down like a sledgehammer, Pep Guardiola might leave Manchester City and they might be disassembled. So, like, if you're Jurgen Klopp, that's like the Klopportunity. By the way, name of the podcast today, Klopportunity Docs. That might be the Klopportunity for you to win more Premier Leagues. And so to walk away, like, there's got to be something really serious that's making him do this.
Yeah, I saw he had a quote, something like, I thought that there was no end to my energy, but I found in the Premier League that there is. I mean, fatigue could just mean so many things. What you described is perhaps the darkest timeline for a United fan, where what if, like, Guardiola leaves City as City crumbles, and they're selling off their players in a fire sale, and Guardiola gets hired as the new Liverpool manager, where he buys up a few of them, and now they're all playing together.
No, but like there could be a world where there's no Klopp and no Guardiola in moments when both Liverpool and City are lesser versions of themselves as a result. And like, as Arsenal has been on the ascendancy for the last 2 seasons. We'll get to reasons for United optimism. Jeff, we could be looking at the 90s again.
Dude, I would take that. I would love an Arsenal United decade or two. That would go a long way for me.
That's something that like would it be crazy if that was 2 to 3 seasons from now? No, like I could see a path.
It's not crazy at all. I don't know. Do you like the timing of like if you're Klopp, like I didn't see this aspect of the story, but like why did this come out? Did he just surprise everyone? Was there any sort of pressure on him to
I have a
explain something?
guess. I have a
Yeah.
guess. So it's end of the January window. They're going to start in the coming weeks and months making contact with players for the summer, for
Yeah.
summer recruitment. You can't be like, I'm Jurgen Klopp, come play for Liverpool, and then 3 weeks later quit before the player like even shows up, before the transfer is even negotiated. I feel like it would just have been impossible for them to keep it a secret much longer if he truly is going to be stepping down in like 4 months. Like that, it
Yeah.
would come out. So I think he's announcing it to like have it come from him to control that story. And also, like, it can allow them to publicly pursue follow up managers for next season, which I have a theory, which is a theory shared by others, but Xabi Alonso is leading the Bundesliga right now for Bayer Leverkusen, and like he definitely would love to go back to Liverpool. Like I'm pretty sure, like that's what's gonna happen. I can't imagine who else they would rather have that's got like a better resume at the moment.
It's a really good point. Yeah, it's hard to pick somebody better than him.
Defensive midfielders also seem to do well as managers because they understand sort of the whole game is sort of out in front of them. They've got to be positionally some of the most sound players on the pitch.
For sure.
And playing for Liverpool, I'm sure he would love to go there and sort of add to his legacy. They'd already love him on day one. It'd probably be a huge raise, better transfer budget, even though, Liverpool's been kind of doing almost as well as City for half the money. So yeah, you got to give it to Klopp. I mean, I don't like him, but like
Yeah.
begrudgingly respect him. Is that the right thing to
Yeah.
say?
I mean it nickels back to your earlier question that for some reason I ignored, but
Yeah, you did.
like
I saw.
but the idea of sort of where does he rank all
What
time?
tier? Yeah, like what are the tiers?
I mean, I feel like it really comes down to how you separate the tiers. It's like it comes down to your criteria where he ranks. Because if your criteria is, he was great for 40 years or something, there's probably like other managers that are ahead of him. But if your criteria is more like how much did he change the game? Was he very successful and did he sort of change the game with his way of looking at it and his tactics? I mean, we're kind of all living in a Jurgen Klopp world in some ways. I mean, he wasn't the only proponent of like gegenpressing and whatnot, but like we're all playing a lot more like his Dortmund teams now than anyone was beforehand. And so in terms of his intellectual and tactical influence on the game, like he's up there. I don't know if he's Mount Rushmore up there. He's not top four, is he?
So Steven Housen had like a ranking, and I know that that's a United homer if there ever was one. But he's basically arguing there's Ferguson sort of on his own when it comes to like league titles plus Champions League titles plus like total honors and then
Sure.
like length of time with one club and having multiple rebuilds that turn into to trophies. And I would agree with him on that. I don't know how you'd feel, but then he basically said the next level is Pep, Jose, and Wenger. And then he argues then that Klopp would be like kind of in that next tier because really he won was it one Champions League and one Premier League and finished second twice.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if that's a very sort of a Anglo-centric way of looking at it.
But that's he would argue, and his argument for that ranking is like it's about titles. Like that's the measuring stick by which everyone is measured historically is titles and
How many
honors.
titles did he have at Dortmund? One, two?
I don't did they win the league even?
They won. There was one season where they won the league, but then lost to Bayern in the Champions League, I believe. Or were they runners up both times? Ooh. I'm pretty sure they won. Didn't they win the league?
I don't know, but
Did
Xabi Alonso's team is currently winning the Bundesliga, so maybe Liverpool will get rid of one great manager and get another one. But I hope that that's not the case. I hope that they go through their boys' years. I hope that that's approaching is that little Liverpool awkwardness. I could really really enjoy that.
I could definitely go for some of that. Klopp won 2 Bundesliga titles and 1 German Cup with Dortmund, which I think is pretty impressive. Especially like to me, any any sort of German silverware that you can lift while not being Bayern Munich makes it that much more impressive. It's like similar to anyone who wins anything in Spain that isn't Real Madrid or Barcelona. It's like a similar level of respect, but.
I don't think placing him on that third tier is an insult. I feel like if you look at the names above that I placed above, or that Steven Housen even placed
Yeah,
above him, it's like those are all those
those are
names
all.
are inarguably icons.
I mean, the one that I kind of bristled at in there was Jose, because
But
I don't
he's
know if.
won multiple Champions Leagues. He's won multiple he broke up sort of our dominance. Like his
Yeah,
arrival was like the end of Ferguson and like the beginning of like top level football pragmatism, just like getting wins.
yeah,
And so I don't know, man. Like I don't. I think Jose has faded like a sunset. But I think if you're judging the body of work, the corpus, uh, I agree with Stephen Housen on this. Sometimes he's uh, a bit more aggressive than my opinion. But
I just think
I know we get it. You love Jurgen Klopp. You're a huge Liverpool fan. You can't get enough.
I do think that he's more influential and innovative in the game, whereas like people like to me there wasn't much even though he was going his own way. Mourinho was not being innovative. He was doing he was parking the bus. He's using tactics that were older than he is.
But Ralph Rangnick is the one who taught Jurgen Klopp about system pressing. And like I'd argue Ralph Rangnick is even more influential, but is he in that top level of managers for a results oriented business? No. You
I
get
mean,
fired or hired based on your results.
I don't know. Let's see Klopp's sort of transfer market titles versus
So
Mourinho's, because
you'll notice,
Mourinho is also he's become a bit of a specialist in failure, to quote Mourinho about Mourinho.
Jeff, you'll notice the title of this segment is Klopping Out.
I will notice that.
I think we
There's
should
supposed to be a Mourinho documentary soon. I'm
yeah, I'm
pretty
not gonna
pumped for
watch
that.
that. You're gonna watch that?
Yeah, I am worried that it's going to humanize him, though. I don't want that.
The Wayne Rooney one was like, so like I cheated on her, right? But like, it's not bad, right?
Beckham came off pretty adorable in his.
I don't need to watch documentaries about players that I already know too much about. Like documentaries are like show me like a new slice of life or show me an issue I don't know about. Don't give me like a diary that I've already kind of read the book of. All right. Can we move on, Jeff? I feel like you're
We can
looking at a
move on.
computer screen.
I
I feel
am.
like
I'm looking and I'm like, why won't someone just list the titles so I can easily compare them? They're all in like paragraph format. But
you know what?
I'll just say that I think that Klopp is probably closer to Mourinho in terms of like his accomplishments than we're giving him credit for. But maybe not. Maybe I'm making that up.
You know that's just like your Kloppinion, man. All right. Hakuna Barada. What a wonderful phrase.
This is why you're actually not stoned today. You're just happier because
Yeah, so
Klopp out, Berrada in.
ding dong. No, basically, also over the last 2 weeks when we haven't podcasted, there were some matches. We'll get to those in a second. But Manchester United, led by Sir Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos, one has been given even greater control of the club than they had when they took over football control. Now they have like pretty much full control, and the Glazers are just big shareholders now, which is kind of weird,
It's
right?
huge. It is kind of weird. I don't know. I can't hear about anything to do with shareholders without seeing it as succession in my head. But like the dumb thing about succession is there's so many times where it's like if the characters could just let go of some petty squabble, then they would get like a lot of money. And I feel like a lot of real businessmen are really good at letting go of petty squabbles when the real money comes around. And I feel like that's what the Glazers are doing, where it's like, God love them.
He
They
doesn't.
ran a big football club for a long time, and they kind of sucked at it. And maybe they realize that now, and they're giving somebody else a spin, and they're letting
Dude,
them pay for the chance. Like, why not?
I think you're minimizing it. They ran the most successful cash generating machine in world sport into the fucking ground. We owe 1.2 billion pounds in debt for the privilege of having them take a shit on us. So
It is
like
kind of crazy that that's what they bought. That's the
the
mortgage.
the adults are finally here, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, without being exceptional at all, just by being fucking competent, are superheroes. It's such a stark, like they've spoken to the fans a number of times already. They've had a dialogue with the fans. Guess who never did that in 18 years of ownership? I'll give you a hint. It's the Glazers.
That was gonna be my second guess. Damn it.
So in their first big move, they have hired away from Manchester City Omar Berrada, who was effectively doing the functions of a CEO at Man City to become their CEO at Manchester United.
Be honest. How much was he on your radar before this happened?
Zero. I'd never heard his name in my whole fucking life.
Okay,
But
same. I just thought I was dumb, but I'm glad we
but
glad we
but
got that out.
I had heard of his bosses, Fernan Soriano or Ferran Soriano, I think, something like that.
Yeah,
And then
sounds familiar.
Ziki, like he's like the director
Be a
of football.
sidekick.
No, is it no? He's like the big sort of bar. That was like someone they brought over from Barcelona that like turned Manchester City into like the fully functional club. And I know that's ironic to say now how Barcelona's been functioning over the past
Yeah,
few years, but this is no doubt like from running the club at the top level. This is a huge coup. Like I've listened to this dude talk with those names that I just butchered at Manchester City, where they like had just like a fly on the wall camera, and they're discussing like how do they run the club, like their philosophy. They're gonna turn United into a very functional business again. It will take a number of years for us to be like truly challenging the likes of yourself, and if Manchester City stays in the Premier League, them and the remnants of Liverpool, like it will take a while. But all the decisions you'll start seeing in the news, you, myself, others are gonna go, "Fuck, that makes sense." That's a
yeah,
competent, good decision. They got rid of that guy. It's about time. They re-signed that person. That makes sense. Like it's just gonna start being a little bit more fucking sensible than like Anthony, 84 million pounds. Yup.
yeah, yeah. I mean, how much of this boon is because of what he adds to United, and how much of it is just that you've subtracted something of real value away from City? Like, how much of that is the joy of the move for you?
I think the former, because Manchester City could implode on their own without any help from us. And
They very well might.
him right now choosing to come to Manchester United at the time he's choosing to come to Manchester United is an interesting wrinkle to this, right? Like we
Yeah,
don't know when that hypothetical what's the name of the it's like it's a sort of Damocles, I don't know, I'm making it up. But like
Shipathesius.
yeah, the guillotine of these 115 charges hanging over Manchester City's head is like that could come down end of the
That could
season.
really break his ship, you know?
Yeah, it could cut the tip right off his dick.
And
So
then they'll blast off into space and hit
no,
a home run.
but like Manchester
It's a good
City,
metaphor.
he might know more about City's future than any of us do. Their
Yeah.
plans and what they expect is coming down the road. I've read from multiple places that he is like not implicated in whatever's going on at Manchester City,
Yeah.
uh, because there was a little bit of like, oh, I hope that we don't just
Is
get
he
a great
tainted?
CEO and immediately he's banned for 2 years. That happened to
Right.
Spurs, right? With what's his face, Peterici, the Italian guy
Oh, yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
Juve.
Yeah.
But so anyway, it's exciting. The next hire should be the director of football, and you know whether it's us paying Newcastle a ton of money to free what's his name, Dan Ashworth from his contract, or it's that what's his face, the guy who used to run Southampton and Monaco or whatnot. I don't know. Director of football though, coming up.
Yeah. No, that's huge. So were you one of those clubs like us where you just sort of didn't have a director of football for a while?
Well, we've effectively had like Glazer Stooges in that role. Although for the longest time we didn't actually have the role. You're right. It was only until Murtaugh, I think, the guy who is currently, is it Murtaugh or is it the guy? Whatever. I'm forgetting these guys' names as they resign. So it's we've had
Swiping.
one. It might have been Murdoch because I remember the phrase Murdoch madness being tossed around whenever we would spend way too much money on a player I'd never heard of. But
Oh
yeah, like
man.
we've had someone, but like just having a guy in that role doesn't mean shit unless they actually have like knowledge on how to take a club from middling to successful, like how to build it up, how to make it a
Right.
machine that can sort of pay for itself, and how to like have there be incremental improvement on the pitch, and like how do you get players before they go to Ajax or before they go to Barca or before they go to Madrid and have them sort of get their prime years for the least amount of investment. Like that's the gambling addict kind of way to approach this. Like how do you game the system? Because we don't have unlimited money to throw at just buying the biggest name that everyone already knows. Like we can't buy Victor Osimhen
Right.
anymore. We owe like as much money as like Texas. I don't know. We owe a
Although I
lot of
mean
money.
related to this, but as the ship, the Manchester City ship starts to sink, will how much will that just affect these markets? That if you're going to see multiple clubs get dinged on this, and you can see the speed at which it seems like it's being accelerated. Oh, top hit of 31. Love the content. Oh, thanks
Like
for
you're our
tuning in.
favorite hitter. Bottom hitter
Um,
sucks compared to you.
hey, you need top and bottom. Uh,
You need
controversial
it.
take.
You need it.
I think it's interesting. Wow, that really threw me off to read someone's comment. But I like the idea that maybe he knows a little more than we know about what is going to happen next for City, and then I like the sort of knock-on effects that will have, where suddenly a player that I've heard of, the basement price of that isn't 200 million, and you can start to like, I don't know, if it had been Arsenal bidding against United for Osimhen, and we didn't have some of the other sort of juiced financial players in the mix, I don't know. Maybe
Jeff,
maybe we hang out. Maybe we get him for 60.
Jeff, I feel like that actually brings up an interesting topic because the spending bubble in the Premier
Yeah.
League, it's already imploded elsewhere. Like Spain isn't really spending a shit ton at the moment. Like Germany's not spending a shit ton. Everyone's like looking at the I don't know 15 world wars going on, and like money is
Yeah.
becoming more precious. And if you're looking in the Premier League right now, we're at the end of the January window. Who's bought much?
Yeah. I mean, in Arsenal's case, we can't. We literally are waiting to pay off the goalie we just bought. We can't do anything else. So yeah, it's tough.
United can't afford a lone striker. We can't even afford a Wout Weghorst because a loan fee is a few million, and we are like we're not like how Everton and Forest just recently got another slap in the face for violating like FFP standards again. There's a chance that like Everton and Forest might get like an additional point
Another one,
deduction,
yeah.
which is nuts. But like
Well,
we're fine, but we can't buy anything. So like
maybe
maybe
you should have appreciated the Wout Weghorst we bought you last year.
the Wout Weghorst we had at home.
Yeah.
But like in a way, like no one's spending. So maybe the new levels of FFP that are being adopted in the Premier League, I think, are starting to match the European standard, which we saw Barcelona come face to face with last season, right? Like all of a
Yeah.
sudden it was you could only be spending 70% of your revenue and then 60%, and then like it's year by year. It's meant to prevent teams from going bust and from leagues from going bust. It's almost like a salary cap in a way.
Yeah.
Um, but like that's something we're seeing now. So like I think there might be an even bigger emphasis on like buying, top young 18-year-olds as and getting them as cheap as they'll ever be and then trying to coach them up because that's going to be the only way to sustainably like turn your squad over.
Hmm.
All right, back to while we were on pod break, Jeff. Arsenal played against a little team called Crystal Palace. Why don't you tell us about how that match went?
They're one of those teams that, in a few key moments where we've really needed to win against them, we haven't. And so going into the game, I always am a little more nervous than I should be. This game felt extraordinarily easy to the point where like I noticed myself being on my phone like way too much in the second half where I'm just like I'm not even like glued to the TV anymore. But it's it's one of those I forget which of the many Arsenal pundits that are sort of on in the background in my life that I heard this from, but I thought it was a really good point. But they're basically saying, like Arsenal had this skid in form for a few weeks where we had, against West Ham, we had dropped points against Fulham, and there were a bunch of moments where you just sort of thought like, aren't we supposed to be better than this? And his point was basically you're never as bad as the bad results look, but you're also never as good as the good results look. And I think there's probably a lot of truth in that in this one where it's like we won 5-0, but ultimately we're still relying so much on set pieces, and we're still taking too many touches when we need to just shoot, and we're just not quite generating the quality of chances and the quantity of chances that we need to if we're going to win. Um, but I do think that we needed this. Like, it's like manna from heaven to have this result and to have all the players as soon as they come back from their little vacation in Dubai to have them pretty much everybody get to score. I think.
You make an interesting point about like the highs and the lows being sort of outliers, but like if you win 5-0 against any Premier League club, you are at the very least the things that are functional are functioning.
Yeah, it
Because
was a good game.
well, if we played Palace right now, like 1-1, like it becomes very apparent when like a club that has talented players isn't firing, like things aren't connecting, like the I think that maybe you just needed a rest. Maybe.
I think that's a big part of it. And I also just think we're not a team that has a natural finisher right now. And that was sort of the problem in all those other games was, we at one point we had 67 chances and one goal over the course of several games. And it's like you just can't do that. Um,
I have a question for you. I have a question for you. And this was something I heard brought up recently about how for the last few, even just I guess as long as this pod has existed, Bruno Fernandes has been like the biggest chance generator in like all of football for like the last since he's arrived at United.
right.
But if you've watched him this season, he hasn't looked that great. And like there are matches sometimes where like someone will credit him as having generated 3, 4, 5, 6 chances. And if you watch the whole match, I'm like, did we as a team have 6 chances? Like, so
Yeah.
what I'm wondering is like, what is the actual definition of a chance? Like, if I shoot the ball from like the opposite end of the pitch, is that a chance? Like
True.
where's the line for that? I mean, you scored 5 goals. That's at least 5 chances, right? You don't
Sure.
score a goal without a chance.
I mean, you could, I guess, like if they just had like a very stupid own goal, like a YouTube special. I mean, I think that the technical definition of a chance created is just like a ball that leads to a shot. But even that, like, I find football to be very lenient in what they consider an assist. Like in many other sports, if I were to like pass to you and then you do a few things with the ball and then score, it's not my assist anymore. Um, and in football, it's not that way. But I, I do think I think that there are some players, especially really talented players. Like I noticed this when Ozil was slumping with us, where it's like he's such a good chance creator, but it almost becomes like its own kind of kryptonite where they start when they're not generating great chances, they players like that are still generating chances, but they're generating chances that are shitty shots. And so now you're like that which when you think about it, a shitty shot is not far from a turnover, you know? like
Yeah.
unless you're getting lucky. And so I would believe that. Like I bet you that there's so many sort of games where United's offense wasn't firing at full, you know, whatever that metaphor is.
Tilt, full
But
tilt.
yeah, they weren't at full tilt. But like Bruno maybe had 3 or 4 chances created, and all of them were shitty. You know, or like
Yeah.
they're the kind of things where maybe if the team was playing a more fluid, dynamic version of the game, then instead of that being a chance created, it would have been one more look that becomes a tap in, but instead it's like you have to take this, thing from the sideline sort of thing.
I'm sorry, I didn't get to see your match. Were any of those goals tap-ins?
There were some really nice ones. Gabriel Martinelli came on for the very end of the game and scored in the 94th and the 95th minute. And both of them, they were just like, it was really good to see from him because he's actually had quite a dip in form this season. And it was nice to see him back to his winning ways where he was super fast on the left wing and very dynamic there, but also he used to just be such a clinical finisher, and we just have lacked that across the board this season. He came in and he got the ball in both goals. It was like carbon copies where he just did that thing where the ball stays on the ground, but it slightly sort of curls, and it just curls around the keeper and goes right to the far post and in. And he posted the highlights after the game, and his caption was just R1 plus O. Which is pretty great.
Plus circle, you mean?
Yeah.
They're just
but
like us.
It really did look like that. Like it looked like the exact sort of like the way an arcade game would finish, because it was just like it was like a video was playing after he reached a certain point. So that was really, really nice to see.
Did you happen to catch the teams Jeff doesn't care about derby of United versus Spurs?
I care about those teams. I dislike them.
Well, did you?
I did watch quite a bit of that game. I didn't catch the whole thing though.
So 2 highlights. Højlund scores right away, so that's his second Premier League goal. Look at him flying. And Rashford scored, so you're like, oh, these are 2 like important elements to United. Maybe they'll be beating a Heung-min Son-less Spurs, which he's been huge for them this season. So to be able to play them without Son was super helpful. But yet, still, Richarlison scored against us, and Bentancur scored against us right in the beginning of the second half, and it was just like, motherfucker, So we tied against a team that largely looked better than us on the pitch, and it was even with our sort of only offensive weapons firing, it wasn't enough. Onana stayed to play.
That Richarlison one, it's like it shouldn't surprise you because he's actually having a good year, but he was so shitty the year before that it feels insulting when he does something good.
He's only supposed to score like a what the fuck goal once every 4 months. Like he's not supposed to do it to your team.
And usually for Brazil, not like
or Everton.
Yeah.
So that was kind of an annoying bummer, but I guess it's like us drawing Spurs right now is honestly an improvement over how we started the season, right? Like
right.
We're unspectacular, but we're average, whereas we started shittier than average. But Jeff, I'm really excited for this next round of fixtures that's coming up. But let's start with yours first to just keep it alternating. Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, you'd hope that we take 3 points in this one. And it's been such a tale of 2 months where in January we've played, this is our 3rd game. So we've had this nice break. It seems like people have been able to use that to train, and we haven't lost the edge, which is what you always worried about in those situations. So I don't know. I mean, I like our odds against them, but they've beaten us before when they weren't supposed to.
I mean, it'll be Matt Turner, right, against his alma mater.
True.
He's been having a real dicey
season. It'll be a dogfight. Did you see that thing, the meme where Ramsdale was like making fun of him and just like posting like exact quotes of things he said. And like one of the things he said is like he was like breaking up a fight in some cup game that he was playing in, and he goes, "It's a fucking dog fight out there, bro."
I feel like I would be quoted by teammates all the time as saying crazy shit if I were on a Premier League club. So like I feel empathy for him there.
Yeah, and it definitely felt like he was being singled out for how American some of his sayings are. The one that they thought was really funny that I didn't blink an eye at, but like all the British guys on the team were laughing at him when he said they were like, "Oh, like tell us some more like American slang," and then like the one thing he said, he was like it's good, you straight, bro. Like they thought that was like the craziest shit they had ever heard. Like, you straight? You just ask somebody if they're straight?
Yeah, in a way that's like super personal and none of your business. In a way.
In a way.
All right, so that Arsenal versus Forest match, that is a Premier League fixture, right?
That is a Premier League game, the 22nd.
So mine, which is either tomorrow or the day after, it is Sunday morning, is against Newport County. Jeff, name one player on Newport County's roster.
Mr. Newport. No, I have no idea. Couldn't do it. I couldn't
Yeah,
even.
I think they're
I
League
live
Two.
in this country. I don't know where that is.
Newport County FC. Let's just give them a quick mid-podcast Google. So they are in League Two, and they are in South Wales.
I was gonna guess on the West Coast because I'm thinking, oh, they need a new port over there.
Nice. I feel like so their whole ground only holds 7,850 seats. So this is gonna feel intimate. Yeah,
cool.
This is gonna be intimate. It's kind of cool, right?
Magic of the cup.
Well, they sell out, and if for whatever reason they force a replay, then they get to go to Old Trafford, right? And then there's wait, do they get a cut of the gate receipts? Is that how it works?
I think that they have done it right where they do better financially if it's in their stadium, even if their stadium is much smaller. But I think they do. Actually, I'm not sure. I think that you know what they do? I think that when they get to play the return, they get more of the TV money too. So like for a team like them, that like few $100,000 or whatever it is like
they're going to get $400,000 from this match, which apparently is like season saving money. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that and apparently, so I was listening to an interview from what's the podcast we went to when we were in London? Talk of the Devils.
Yeah.
So they were telling us about this club a little bit, and the manager gives an interview, and I think he's from Ireland and a diehard United fan. So like he's apparently been managing in different capacities in football for like 30 years, and this is like his dream come true. Even if we clobber them, it's like he's just like so happy, and so that's like kind of like heartwarming. And I would expect us to play like a pretty strong lineup because Casemiro's back, Shaw's back, Martinez is back.
Oh, interesting. Like a rehab game kind of thing.
Yeah, and our backup keeper is finally gonna get minutes for this club. Altai Bayendir, I think. I don't know his name.
Gonna be good. Like now with like I'm hearing Casemiro back and like with all these guys back on the field.
So Casemiro was looking pretty exposed in the beginning of the season, but I'm wondering if having Maino sitting next to him, I'm still getting used to pronouncing his name. Kabi. I wonder if having Kabi Mainu next to him will they can share the defensive burden of protecting the back four, and then maybe let Bruno go up and just be more of a lunatic up front where he's more dangerous nearer to goal. Like I'm wondering if that could be helpful, and having Martinez back on the pitch with like his foot not broken for the second time in 4 months will be dope for him. Him and Luke Shaw playing together with Rashford together, like that's interesting. But Rashford will not be playing because he is quote unquote sick. Even though he was photographed 2 nights ago, like being out at some club at a party. I gotta say, I don't give a fuck that he went out. I feel like they're not slaves. They don't need to have a certain number of goals and assists to be allowed to go out on an
Yeah.
off night. I feel like I'm starting to really notice a lot of how like the press is like hungry for blood. It's like, what other job would you be given shit for going out for a few hours at one night when you
Like
don't have work the
once.
next day?
Right. Yeah, no, it's pretty. I think there are certain teams, certainly United and Arsenal that way, where it's like the media is just so out for blood all the time that they strangle some of the potential of these players in the crib because there's just too much pressure on them, too many eyes on them, on like bullshit stuff like you're talking about. I mean, and it's like it's funny because it's the same media that will like they'll get teary eyed when they think about the old days when everyone was in the pub, on match day, and but then yeah, it's just an easy, lazy insult, I guess, to say, oh, seen out. Plus, a lot of
It's
these guys like seen out. They're going to some restaurant where they eat like vegetables and filet mignon, and then you know what I mean? And then they go home and like bang their harem or whatever. I don't know if that's what this particular person does, but that's like a typical night with a lot of these players, I think. And
Am I? Would you call me out as being full of shit if I argued that this really only happens to like England players that are black?
it definitely seems to happen quite a bit more to them, doesn't it?
Like
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
I'm not
almost like
hearing a
there's
lot
a
about like
slight
Grealish.
pattern of racism.
No, but I'm saying I when I read that
Like
like
even like a
Marcus
guy like
Rashford,
Grealish and Rooney and these guys that go out on the town, you don't hear about them as often in the same negative light.
even if Grealish hadn't played in a few weeks and had been like on one of his like frozen out periods of being
Yeah,
in City side, like you just don't, and he can behave that way. And like Rashford's having a bad season right after he signed a big contract, but like that sucks. I don't know if it
yeah,
means that he has to be on house arrest, and
yeah,
it's only being written about these young guys, and like
yeah.
I don't know,
Is
man. I
a
think
COVID lockdown really like what he needs to get better? I don't think so.
No, I think that everyone needs to relax a little bit. Like this season's kind of fucked, so like let's not ruin anyone's life over it. I I I'm a little like no wonder it's fucking hard to play for this club. Like honestly, like no wonder it's not as easy as like all right, so this is the next topic, but great segue to this. The topic is called Sancho is doing well in Germany. Fuck him. But like it's clear how much easier it is to play in some other leagues or to play in smaller teams where there isn't like a 24-hour channel devoted to gossip and rumors and
Yeah,
stoking the flames of whatever. Maybe we're a little bit a part of that, but like Marcus Rashford is constantly being scrutinized, and I'm not saying that he is perfect or does everything right or I don't know. I don't even know the guy. I only admire what I do know, but like he is scrutinized like fucking Obama. Like people are their whole careers are sustained by like sharpening the knives for him, and like I do feel for him.
yeah,
Uh, but anyway, but Sancho on the other hand, he has, I think has had what like a goal and an assist in his couple of games back for Dortmund.
yeah. I have to say I saw this coming a mile away. It
Because he did
really,
great. He did great in that league. There's more
yeah.
space. It's slower. Like some of the teams you play against are like much
Not as
lower level
good.
than the worst Premier League team.
There's a lot of truth in all that, but also I just think even if he had gone to another Premier League team, I would have liked his odds because there's just something about like a guy who actually knows they can do it, but they've just had that like fuck you experience of getting frozen out of a team and now they're hungry for it again. Like ironically, the one it reminded me of the most is when Aubameyang came from Dortmund over to Arsenal, where he was a great player for them, but then suddenly he's on the outs, and then it was like every moment that he had on the field for the first few seasons he was with us, he was just relishing it, and you could see that, and it was a joy to watch him play then. So I don't know.
So do you want to buy Sancho for 50 million pounds?
Whew. I mean,
Give you a discount.
yeah, it's like we can't, and I don't necessarily want to write 50 million pound checks and send them to Manchester, but it's probably not a far off value if he like finishes this season out. I I mean, it makes you start wondering, like, he was always one of Southgate's boys. Like, could he possibly play himself back into the England team for the Euros over the course of the next few months? Like,
I
interesting.
don't know. I do want to sell that fucker though, and Mason Greenwood. If like apparently he's been doing, I think he's got 7 goal contributions in like I don't know, 18 matches, something like that.
Where is he again?
Is it one? It's one of the Spanish teams. I can't remember. Whoever it is a team that's like full of fascists and racists, so they like are all about
They love
having a
him.
rapist in their team too. What else we got talked about? All right, so Jeff, just gonna give you a quick NFC update. The football club of myself, past guests Neil, Julio, and Hector, and James as well. All friends of the pod. So we
Yep.
have started the season 3-0. We are all alone at the top of the standings. No one else is has won every one of their matches.
Congratulations. If
We
I knew
are
how to
we're,
use the soundboard, I would make a clapping sound now.
clap clap clap.
Hmm.
Did I show you our kits that we have? We have now. We're the only team in this really like low ass like rec soccer league that has custom kits.
Oh, that's amazing. No.
I would go run and get it, but that's not like great podcast audio, right? That's
No, it's not.
I'll run and get it after we finish. But your boys finally healthy after I'm it's basically
Yeah.
Lissandro Martinez and I, same guy.
Lot
We're
in
both
common. Lot
finally
in
back
common.
from multiple surgeries, ready to be the butcher of Westchester for me.
You're
Near
switching to
me and
center back.
I. No, I've been playing. I've been playing fullback a lot.
True.
But I go where I'm needed. I don't know. I'm like
Yeah.
I honestly think I'm like the John O'Shea of our team if we're really thinking about it. Like there's no
You live and
disrespect.
breathe total football. You anywhere on the
Yeah,
pitch, the same to you, really.
basically I'll go up front. I'll play on the wing. I'll play in the middle of the park, wherever, man. Like I'm just happy to help. I'm just happy to bring my talents to the team.
True.
Have you been playing
Honestly.
still? If you're gonna give us a little,
Yeah. I've made it out a couple times. I've been doing the 5-a-side league with a mostly much younger group. They're pretty good, and it's sort of they're almost too good for me, but it's just enough where I'm not dragging them down too far. So yeah, been enjoying it. Been putting the shooting boots on.
speaking of shooting, don't you
Mhm.
want to shoot the people that make Diablo 4? No, kidding. Totally kidding. But
Oh man,
Diablo 4 Season 3, I know all our audiences are like all football fans and gaming fans. So
probably. I'm digging it, to be honest. What do you think? I'm a level 16. I chose Rogue this time.
I haven't done it. I haven't played it at all.
No? Oh wow.
I've read
You're
a
just
lot
out
of
now.
reviews. Yeah, I've read a lot of reviews that are basically like Season 2 was really good and Season 3 just
That's funny though, because I felt like, well, I don't know. I haven't read like official reviews, but when I was looking at like the fans and people like on Reddit talking about it, like people just shit on it no matter what all the time. One thing that I kind of like about it that a lot of people don't like is like they're trying to make the gameplay more interesting. So like you'll be in a battle, but then there'll also be these like almost like Mario style obstacles. So there'll be like things spinning around like in like as if you're in Koopa's palace, and you have to avoid them while also fighting and doing these other things. And it's like because it's always a weird game where it's like the skill in the moment of actually fighting is like not nearly as important as just like collecting the most like Pokemon cards.
right.
And it seems like they're trying to make the gameplay a little more interesting, which I dig.
But I always liked as a game that it's like I could close my eyes and maybe take like an hour nap and level up 2 or 3 times before I wake up. Just like holding
Yeah.
my fingers on the buttons and pushing them mindlessly works. It's a great game for that.
To be honest, it has made me realize like I can't look down my nose at any of the old women on buses to Atlantic City because like that game is essentially a slot machine and I am addicted to it. But yeah, it's fun.
Slot machine plus violence equals #1 selling game of the.
Yeah. That's a winning combination there. That's America in a nutshell.
Do you anything else you want to talk about before we hit the dusty trail? I got a message from a friend of the pod, Neil, who is literally dancing in the street over Jurgen Klopp's departure.
Oh, good
he's,
man.
he's very happy. He's happier than I've ever seen anyone for anything right now.
Good on you, Neil.
Anything else?
That's it. Sayonara.
Captain, my captain. See you soon, Jeff.
See you, dude.
Meet the Suckers. Meet the Suckers. A soccer podcast that probably won't last. Meet the Suckers. Meet the Suckers. Schuyler and Jeff don't know how to rhyme. Meet the Suckers and chat shit today.